All right, well, thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning for another historic day in our athletic history with the announcement of our fourth head men's basketball coach in school history. We are extremely glad that Chicago has called Ryan Marks back home, where his mom Charlotte lives and resides, and we're glad that he has joined us, applied for the position of head men's basketball coach, and has accepted our invitation to become our fourth head coach of our program. Ryan will tell you that his experience at St. Edward's, which was a small Catholic college in Texas, was one of his best experiences, and a lot of people that we talked to that work with him, said great things about him, and he had a great experience there, as well as his other stops at Southern Vermont and Texas Pan American. We believe that our university has many of those same traits that he experienced at St. Edward's, and hopefully after he finishes out his career here and retires here, we will have one-up that experience at St. Edward's, not only with our athletic experience here, but the whole atmosphere of St. Francis, one that has brought many people in and made for great experiences and unforgettable experiences for many of our student athletes. As we did 3 years ago when we announced the hiring of Coach Baines, I had another incredible search committee that I would like to recognize for their hard and thorough work and the time that they took away from their families and balanced their schedules with their work. Shane Green, Dr. Les Cox, Scott Slocum, Vince Cornelius, Kara Courier, Samantha Quigley, who was in the same position a year ago, Edvinas Presniakovas, one of our student athletes from the team, and Mark Peters. I would like to take the opportunity again to thank them for all the hard work that they put in selecting Ryan as our next head coach after reviewing over 100 resumes for the position and then whittling it down to 35 and then down to 9 and then down to 4 and finally to this day. We feel, as Coach Baines felt prior to his leaving, that this program is on the cusp of great things. Winning Chicagoland Collegiate Athletic Conference championships, going to the NAI National Tournament to have the same experience that Shane felt back in the early to mid-90s when we made our last appearances at the national tournament. And we are confident that Ryan Marks can take us that next step and continue the progress of this program that was started by Coach Sullivan for a number of years and then continue with the progress that Coach Baines brought it to over the past 3 years. So at this time, I'd like to introduce the next head men's basketball coach of the University of St. Francis, Ryan Marks.
The other day, I guess it was Monday afternoon, that I kind of faxed over my letter making things official to Dave, and interestingly, about 8 hours later, people were celebrating in the streets. Then I had to stop. I guess a couple of Blackhawks fans jumped in on the celebration, but certainly a heck of a way to come home. One thing I'll share with you is, as I get going to some of the important stuff, but I'm not big. I don't love to read off of notes or prepared stuff. So if I get a little off track, it'll come back to where it's supposed to be, but it might get a little bit tangential. And one thing I promise, I know some of you might have been watching the news yesterday, and me coming back from a Texas school, you may know in the Texas Senate yesterday, they had one of the senators trying to get a filibuster through, and she had to speak for 13 straight hours. And I think they got to hour 10 and cut it off. I'll be about 9 hours and 57 minutes shorter than she made it, so you don't have to worry about that. But obviously this is a very gratifying day for me and a very exciting day for myself, my wife Mara, my family, my mother, obviously who's here. We could not be more thrilled about this opportunity to be joining the St. Francis family. And I think first and foremost, part of my enthusiasm has been generated of the process itself to get here to this day through the search committee and everybody that I've interacted with to this point. Obviously, I want to thank first and foremost Dr. Johnson for this opportunity. And what a unique thing for a coach to be coming in, particularly when you have at the top and in the office of the president, somebody new that's bringing in fresh ideas and sort of moving at the same time with what we're doing in athletics. A lot of great things about moving forward here at the university. I want to thank Dave in particular as far as heading the search committee. A lot of conversations that have transpired between me and him through the process to really get a better understanding of what he feels is going to be a great representation of men's basketball and St. Francis athletics as we move forward, and very much became increasingly more comfortable that I could be the person that could help take us to that place. The search committee itself was really unique. It was a big committee. Obviously, Dave has kind of mentioned the composition of that, and it really signifies the importance of St. Francis to the people that gave that time, and how important it was for them to get the right person and a good coach into this position to provide the experience that they would like to see. And so for all of those, the time and really the sincerity that all those people displayed continued to make my enthusiasm about coming here all the greater. I think it's really flattering as a coach, and I think a healthy thing when you have current student athletes involved in the process. Obviously, two of the guys are here, Sebastian and Eddie, and I know that they're coming in knowing that they had input is comforting to me, because those are the guys that we're going to have to get to work together right away. And they know, they also have a knowledge of what they've done the past couple years, and that the program is moving really in a great direction. And so to sort of have their blessing to move forward with them is great. And also really to have former student athletes and to see their attention. I know Shane is in the back of the room, and to have somebody who is an alum that's played in your program and that still has such pride and ownership and the desire to see things move forward from the groundwork that was laid is really an admirable thing. So all of those things have led to obviously my pursuit of being here and being fortunate to be chosen to be the coach that can move the program forward from this point. I think that having said that, the program is at a unique time. I know Dave mentioned maybe the possibility of retiring here. I was starting to do the math in my head. This is I followed some impressive coaches, different places I've been. There was a guy at Texas Pan American, coach there in the early 70s, named Abe Lemons, that within the coaching community is considered maybe one of the sort of like the funniest of the head coaches. He was the king of the one-liner. And so I went into that job knowing I would never be the funniest guy that ever coached there. And with my sense of humor, I was a little undaunting, but I figured, okay, I can be the second funniest guy. I would have to go, I think, to 2047 to retire if I'm going to catch Coach Sullivan. So, considering the fact that I think I've got a lot of energy, but that's a little bit imposing. So, we'll see. I was trying to calculate that in my head as Dave was talking about it, but certainly would be a great thing. I look forward to obviously a long and very fruitful tenure here. I'm really excited about it. I think when you take over as a coach, instinctively you think about the people who have shaped you in the profession and got you here. And I've been tremendously fortunate over the last 20 years. I think particularly about the coaches that I've worked for and the things that have made them great. And some of the head coaches, Bob Sunvold was at Central Missouri, the first head coach I ever worked for. Brian Hamill, who was a magnificent coach and mentor that was at Northern Illinois while I was there. a coach named Herb Brown, who's a legendary professional coach who I had the chance to take an American team to Israel with about 11 summers ago. And when I think about those guys in particular and their devotion to coaching as teachers and as mentors, both to me as an assistant and to the student athletes that they influenced, it really resonates on a day like this. And something that's incredible is, I mentioned Coach Sullivan, and obviously Dave mentioned Coach Gillespie, and you're talking about two guys that are truly like the quintessential coaches, so to speak. And the fact that they were here and the foundation they laid, and when you start to think about the volume of lives that they affected in a positive way, to a younger coach is a little bit intimidating, because that's what that's what you aspire to do, and that's what I aspire to do. And I think to find that those type of people had a niche here where they felt like they could perfect their craft and influence so many lives is a great litmus test, I think, for me to think about the things that we can do as coaches here. I look at some of the coaches in place now, alums that take great pride, Coach Mahalik, Coach Curry. You look at Sam taking over the women's basketball program a year ago and being a Joliet native, and again, kind of I think the commonality of the passion for this area and this place is so great. So to be able to come in and try to join that and help build together is really anything that a coach, that a coach can ask for. When you're a head coach, you have a very, very prominent and prevalent effect on the experience of the student athlete. What you have less of an impact on a collegiate campus is the academic experience, the social experience, the spiritual experience. Yet when you go out recruiting young people to join your program, you're selling them on the totality of those things. So it's really important to me as a coach. I felt like I wanted to be able to go into the homes of prospective student athletes and talk to them, their parents, people counseling them, and explain to them the nature of the experience that they would have in all of those areas when they would come to St. Francis, and feel comfortable knowing that the mission and the atmosphere that I was selling was going to be what they were going to get when they got here. And I feel incredibly confident and strongly that that's going to be the case. So that's terrific. The last thing I think is, really where the program is right now, and Coach Bain's doing an excellent job the last 3 years of, continuing the culture of establishing a place that wants to be successful on the court, that wants to compete for championships. Obviously, we have Cardinal Stritch out of our league, who won the national championship last year. That gives you a good benchmark, and a good benchmark to the players that, hey, if we can get to the top of the league, we're going to be in the discussion and putting ourselves in a position to be a team that can compete for a national championship. And there's a lot of places you not necessarily think that you're going to be able to do that. And so Coach Baines did a great job, and the players that are in the program have done a good job of moving in that direction. And now together we're going to work to try to move closer and closer to those goals. And I think they're goals that we're going to be able to, I'm confident that we're going to be able to attain. And we're going to be able to do it with the type of student athletes that are here, that appreciate the St. Francis experience, that understand the value of the education, and much like the alums who are on the search committee are going to be guys that are going to have great success here and then move on to be successful alums and keep the lineage of what the student athlete experience at St. Francis is all about. The last thing that I want to say, I want to thank the search committee. They did overlook one piece of information in my background, and I'm thankful that they did. In the tradition of some of the coaches who have been here have been multiple sport coaches. I was at one place a multiple sport coach. At Southern Vermont College, I was the basketball and the baseball coach. And I think probably much to Coach Mihalik's happiness, he can see that I won 3 games in 3 years as a baseball coach at Southern Vermont. So there's no jeopardy to his position whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I will tell one quick story of my time at baseball. We won 3 games in 3 years. I will fight to the end to say that we overachieved. We had very, very limited talent. The first baseball game I ever coached at Southern Vermont, we took what was called a southern trip. That meant we drove to Cape Cod, where the ice melts a little bit sooner. And in our first game, much like Dave's beloved Cubs, we had no base runners in the first 3 innings. In the 4th inning, thankfully the opposing pitcher plunked our leadoff guy on the shoulder, so we got a base runner. For the next 16 pitches, I gave him the steal sign. Guy never ran. First guy strikes out, next guy pops out, next guy grounds out. Comes the dugout and said, hey, Adam, how come you didn't run? You didn't think you had a good jump? Because, Coach, I was so confused. I was on first base, but I thought you were giving me the bunt sign. So anyway, that gives you a little bit of the idea of what I was working with as a baseball coach. So I'm certainly glad that the committee overlooked that, and I'll try to not give Coach Mihalik too many tips while I'm here. But if he needs a bullpen catcher, I'm always available. But again, I'm tremendously grateful for the opportunity. I'm excited, looking forward to quickly getting out of these clothes and into some basketball stuff and getting down and dirty and ready to work and really carry forward the program in the light that it should be with the great tradition that it has. And I'm appreciative of the welcome to be here at the St. Francis community.